Alright, here we go. Best time of the quarter. New Path of Exile shit. Let's get
The
started.
Forbidden Sanctum is an old Templar enclave, long rumoured to be hidden beneath the Fellshrine ruins.
I knew that. Everyone
Abandoned
knows
for
that.
a long time, it is now controlled by a malevolent entity. In this league, you'll explore it, find out its secrets, and deal with the evil that lurks there. The Sanctum Challenge League is a roguelike game, played out one room at a time as you explore Rayclast and the Atlas in Path of Exile. In every area or map you enter, you can make a choice of which room in the Sanctum you will explore next. On the Sanctum map, you can see the contents of a few rooms ahead, enabling you to plot a path through its dangerous halls.
Oh shit, Slay the Spire
the Sanctum
shit.
is dangerous. Like most roguelikes, you should not expect to be able to complete it on your first try. Getting to the deeper floors requires experience, knowledge, and luck. You should expect that your early attempts will fail, but over time, you'll be able to push yourself farther and farther. As you progress deeper into the Sanctum, you'll find a variety of treasures that will help you eventually fight your way to the dangers that await you at the end of its 4 floors. Eventually, by endgame, you may be able to push through all 4 floors to face the final boss. Every roguelike needs a resource to help you track how well the run is going. In the Forbidden Sanctum, it is your resolve, indicated by this bar here. As you explore the Sanctum, your resolve is threatened by the dangers within. When you lose all of your resolve, your Sanctum run ends. Your level of resolve is maintained between consecutive rooms on your run, but is only shown when you're in the Sanctum itself. The resolve mechanic applies equally to all build archetypes. Your resolve is reduced when you are hit by monsters or environmental hazards in the Sanctum, and these telegraphed attacks are not affected by regular Path of Exile defensive mechanics, such as evasion, armor, or block. While these attacks do some nominal damage to your regular life, the bulk of their impact is against your resolve. This mechanic provides a mechanism for tracking your progress between rooms, where your regular life pool would long ago have been recovered. Another aspect of the resolve system is that characters who are struggling can be ejected from the Sanctum without actually having to die, avoiding experience loss or hardcore death. So maintaining a healthy level of resolve is key as you navigate the Sanctum, and that means making careful choices of what rooms you enter. Let's have a look at some of the things that Sanctum rooms can...
Does that mean you get ejected because you're not doing damage fast enough? Or does that mean you can just leave at any time? Kind of made it sound like you get ejected if you're not clearing fast enough. So like a DPS check.
Contain. Afflicted rooms cause you to gain an affliction when you enter them. Afflictions make your Sanctum run more difficult. For example, reducing your resolve recovery, causing rewards to become hidden on the Sanctum map, or causing Sanctum rooms to spawn volatile anomalies that follow you. These minor afflictions accumulate as you get deeper and deeper into a run, making it more challenging. Major afflictions exist and are a big deal. They have significant consequences, such as entirely preventing the recovery of resolve. So, a Sanctum run gets harder and harder as you pick up more afflictions. Sounds great. But every roguelike needs a way for you to gain power throughout your run. In the Forbidden Sanctum, that system is boons. Boons are beneficial buffs that help you as you progress through the Sanctum. Minor boons make things a little easier, such as slowing down monsters or adding a special shield to your resolve called Inspiration. Major boons don't come along often, but have large effects, such as preventing you from receiving more minor afflictions, or recovering your resolve to 50% the next time you run out. Due to the vast variety of afflictions and boons, no 2 runs are the same. Generally speaking, your best Sanctum runs are the ones where the afflictions you choose have little effect on you, and the boons either counteract them or have a large benefit for the strategy you're running. Some rooms in the Sanctum contain a fountain which will restore some of your lost resolve. Others contain afflicted fountains that restore even more resolve at a cost. Rooms with a treasure reward contain chests full of the Templar Aureus currency, a type of gold coin they used for commerce within their Sanctum. You'll also find some Aureus coins from monsters that you kill as you explore. These are picked up automatically, like Azurite, and are not tradable, and like your afflictions and boons, are lost when your Sanctum run ends. Some rooms contain a merchant who accepts your Aureus coins in exchange for boons.
Yeah, it's Slay the Spire. That's great.
As you may encounter the merchant again later on with even more expensive boons to purchase. Occasionally, the sinister powers controlling the Sanctum will present you with the choice of making an accursed pact. You are given several pacts to choose from and can even opt to take all that you are offered. All pacts have a big upside and a big downside, such as exchanging a portion of your maximum resolve for a random major boon. It's very dangerous to make a pact, but if you pick the right circumstances, your gamble could pay off. In addition to rewards that help you progress through the Sanctum, many rooms let you immediately receive Path of Exile currency items, but with a twist. Whenever you're offered some currency items that you can receive right away, you are also offered a more valuable option that will be waiting for you after the boss fight at the end of the current floor of the Sanctum. It's a gamble, because if you fail your run before you reach and defeat the boss, you will not receive the reward you picked. Later on, you're offered the extreme temptation of getting a massive currency reward that is conditional on completing your entire Sanctum run without failing. At a specific point in the Forbidden Sanctum storyline, you'll discover a special altar that Templar relics can be placed on. These relics directly affect your Sanctum runs and are not lost when a run ends. They persist throughout the League as a permanent source of meta progression.
Okay, so that's
Acquiring
like
new and better relics
Diablo
is one of the ways you
2,
can push farther and farther with each run you try.
I forget what they
Relics
call
cannot
those
be
things.
crafted and cannot be
Runes,
traded,
enchantments,
as they represent your personal progression throughout the League. You'll accumulate more than you can use
charms.
simultaneously,
There they are.
so you'll have options to fine-tune your strategy from run to run. You can store your extra relics in the Relic Locker, a free storage space like the Expedition Locker. We don't want to spoil important story details, but the end boss of the Forbidden Sanctum can drop unique items.
Strength and intelligence, mana, -5 chaos resistance, -5 to all maximum resistances. Gain additional elemental damage reduction equal to half your chaos resistance. Interesting. Use that with Divine Flesh. That would be hot.
From a pool exclusive to this league. Today we'd like to show you a unique amulet called Eternal Damnation. This amulet offers a powerful way to gain additional elemental mitigation by introducing the concept of elemental damage reduction. Despite the drawback of reducing your maximum resistances, if you have sufficient chaos resistance, this is more than compensated for. Because of the roguelike nature of the Forbidden Sanctum, defeating the boss of a floor is a difficult achievement and hence rewards a lot of experience. You may fail on the way, so if you do manage it, expect a good experience boost for your achievement. Another reward you can find is a special type of relic called a Sanctified Relic that has mods that directly affect your character's build. You can only unlock one slot for this type of relic, and while these relics can't be crafted through conventional means, you may find special reward rooms in the Sanctum that can modify them. These relics exist for this league only and provide a boost to character power
Oh,
for
that's
players who
fucking
are able
slick.
to master the Sanctum.
That's fucking slick.
The Sanctum League offers a roguelike experience that tempts you into taking risks and rewards you if those pay off. There's a lot to explore in the Sanctum, and we can't wait to hear about your experiences next week.
It feels like, and it looked like, that there wasn't a high level of mob density. So we might be able to do some strong single target damage. Obviously, I'm thinking Heavy Strike. It looks like Heavy Strike might be the way to go, because stunning bitches and hitting real fucking hard seems like a pretty good idea, because I didn't see huge mob types. I don't even think I need Splash. Just do Heavy Strike and target additional enemies. Good to go.
In each expansion leading up to Path of Exile 2's release, we're improving Path of Exile's endgame, with new content to explore and improvements to how you customize your endgame experience. In the Forbidden Sanctum expansion, we're revamping the Atlas tree, reworking how Eldritch altars function, and are introducing 2 new Atlas memories. The Atlas tree is generally working really well, but has a few problems we'd like to address. The tree offers you the ability to specialize in killing pinnacle bosses, providing extra rewards when you do so. While this sounds good on paper, it creates a situation where you're incentivized to specialize your tree for regular mapping, save up all of your boss fights, then respec fully into boss mode, and then do all of your saved up boss fights before
Yeah,
speccing
that's what
back
I did.
again. Ideally, the design of the Atlas tree would let you spec into one build and then just play the game. We have removed all boss bonuses from the Atlas tree, and have baked some of them into the actual base properties of the boss fights. For example, you don't need to allocate the Gaze into the Abyss notable that makes the Elder more likely to drop a Watcher's Eye, as he just has that drop chance built in now. The Atlas tree is now focused on allowing you to specialize into content that you encounter in every map. We also want you to be able to specialize into your favorite leagues even more deeply on the Atlas tree. For each of the 10 leagues that the tree lets you disable, we've added a bunch more passives to the tree. These new passives allow you to increase the league's spawn chance to much higher levels than currently possible, and juice the league even further than before. We are making a number of changes to Eldritch altars that mostly affect their rewards, but will also affect gameplay decisions you make involving them. Some of the key changes include splitting up the basic currency, Scarab, and Divination card rewards to be explicit in their description of what rewards you'll get. For example, instead of map bosses dropping 3 unknown basic currency items, the altar specifically says which currency item they'll drop.
That's
As part of
nice.
this change, we've removed some of the lower value yet quite common currency rewards from the pool, such as Orbs of Augmentation and Orbs of Transmutation.
Also
Speaking
nice.
of scarabs, these will be less available from altars, but we've improved their availability elsewhere to offset this. Rusted scarabs can now drop from the core drop pool, and we've added a vendor recipe that allows you to upgrade your scarabs up to gilded using the normal 3:1 ratio. You can also perform this action from your fragment tab using the new upgrade button. We have made reward types exclusive to different influences, so that you know which influence type to invest in if you want to target farm a certain reward. To give you a specific example, if you run maps influenced by, say, Eater of Worlds, you'll see Divine Orbs from the basic currency reward more than twice as often as before. We've also rebalanced rewards so that choices that affect boss drops or influence monster drops are comparatively more valuable. The Wrath of the Cosmos keystone has been reworked. Previously, it was so rewarding that players felt obligated to use it despite its extreme level of difficulty. It has retained the risk versus reward element, but with the overall intensity toned down. You can now also get awakened gems from defeating Maven Witness map bosses. This additional reward helps further balance the expected returns from the various types of influence.
That's very nice.
For more detail on these changes, check out the Balance Manifesto we posted last week, or the upcoming patch
It's gonna
notes.
drop the price of those so much.
In the Lake of Calandra expansion, we introduced Atlas Memories. When applied to your Atlas, they unlock a sequence of maps that tells the story of an NPC's past. These stories manifest as specialized encounters that involve a new challenge and exciting rewards. In this expansion, we've introduced 2 new Atlas memories, describing events related to bestiary and domination. The bestiary memory line allows you to capture harvest monsters as beasts for your menagerie. These harvest beasts can be used in 9 new beast crafting recipes. These recipes cover an array of options. For example, you can remove one of the special modifiers from a Watcher's Eye Jewel and then add another.
Oh,
This
that's
grants potion results,
awesome.
but won't affect the life, mana, or energy shield modifiers. You can re-roll an awakened gem from one type to another.
Awesome.
Another example is that you can also re-roll a synthesis implicit modifier. If your item has more than one synthesis implicit, it will randomly re-roll one of them. The Domination Atlas memory thrusts you into a tale of pantheon gods that stand watch over their shrines. Like regular shrines, these are guarded by monsters and emit a buff that empowers the monsters until you claim that buff for yourself. This Atlas memory introduces a new set of shrines with specialized buffs, guarded by rare monsters that drop tantalizing rewards. The Forbidden Sanctum expansion introduces a new type of shard that can drop from Harbingers, Fracturing Shards. When combined together into a full currency item, you get the Fracturing Orb, which behaves the same as the Fracturing Craft from Harvest. It can be used on any rare item with at least 4 modifiers. When the orb is applied, it locks one of the modifiers in place so that further crafting efforts do not affect that modifier. Items fractured in this way can only have one fractured modifier. Previously, this crafting option was gated behind the Oshabi fight in Harvest. Now that it has been rehomed to Harbinger, the Harvest crafting option is no longer available. This means that you'll be able to use your Harvest Life Force and Oshabi kills on other crafts. Because Fracturing Shards drop from Harbingers, you'll be able to target farm them by speccing into Harbinger content on your Atlas tree.
I hate Harbinger content, but that makes
The Forbidden
Harbinger
Sanctum
very
expansion
good.
introduces a number of new skill gems. In addition to some new melee VAAL skills we'll discuss later in the livestream, there are 2 totally new skills that we'd like to unveil today. Volcanic Fissure is a new fiery slam skill that can be used with staves, maces, axes, and unarmed attacks. Strike the ground
Unarmed.
to create a chasm
We
that
got a
winds
hollow
towards your
palm
target.
build coming up.
This chasm can path around corners before erupting as the fissure gets as close as it can reach. It releases a burst of fiery projectiles that explode on striking the ground. Enemies hit by multiple impacts will take a lot of stacked damage. Use it up close for reliable bursts of damage, or aim far away to damage a larger area. Frozen Legion is an unusual spell, summoning a ring of icy statues that attack with your own weapon damage. This skill has multiple cooldown stacks and consumes all cooldown uses at once to summon a statue for each available cooldown. The statues perform a sweeping ice slash, and these sweeps can overlap, resulting in multiple hits against targets
Interesting.
close to you. This spell can be used with staves, maces, and axes. The skill is particularly powerful with slow, heavy weapons, as while the statues will use your attack speed, you should instead prioritize the spell's own cast time and cooldown. This expansion also introduces many new VAAL melee skills. As you know, equipping a VAAL skill gem grants you both the VAAL and regular version of the skill. As you kill enemies, the gem charges up with their souls, and after a certain number are collected, the VAAL skill can be used once. Most of the new VAAL skills introduced in this expansion are melee skills, and this results in an indirect buff to any melee builds that use one of these skills. Where previously you'd just be using your melee skill to kill enemies, you now get to periodically use a super-powered version of the skill. If you like Flicker Strike, you'll love VAAL Flicker Strike, as it really dials up the concept of letting fate take the wheel. VAAL Flicker Strike causes you to flicker dozens of extra times, slashing enemies. During this time, you don't deal any damage to the enemies you slash. You're quite vulnerable due to not leeching or generating fortify stacks. When you finish flickering, if you survived of course, you'll be rewarded with a single huge hit of damage against each enemy you slashed. VAAL Cleave is a new VAAL skill that buffs the behavior of its non-VAAL version, in a similar way to how VAAL Rev works. VAAL Cleave triggers two buffs, one when you kill a rare enemy, and one when you kill either a rare or unique enemy. The latter is a strong buff to regular cleave, which you can keep up almost permanently if you're able to kill rare or unique enemies often enough. The bonus for killing a rare enemy is that you get to steal its mods for a time. You can enjoy part of the power of having a headhunter without actually needing to find one. Overall, VAAL Cleave is a pretty powerful upgrade to any melee build that could run cleave. That +2 radius buff is looking pretty good now, right? Don't hurt me. We'll showcase the other new VAAL skills we're introducing over the
That's a
coming
funny
week.
little joke.
The Forbidden Sanctum expansion introduces over 15 new unique items, from Sanctum exclusive
I bet they buffed Cleave and gave VAAL Cleave an ability simply to justify their fucking 2 range buff.
uniques to ones that can be found from Path of Exile's pinnacle bosses. I'd like to show you 3 examples of these, designed by winners of our prior league's boss kill races. Progenesis is a unique amethyst flask that was designed by Ben and drops from the Uber Maven. It's a defensive flask that grants a mini version of the Petrified Blood effect, but without requiring you to be on low life. This is a useful tool to prevent you getting one-shot by large amounts of incoming damage in scary situations. Rational Doctrine is a unique jewel that was designed by Rawlings and drops from Uber Venarius. By manipulating your attributes, you can change how this jewel behaves. While the ideal dream outcome is that you manage to get your strength and intelligence tied for highest, enabling both of the benefits simultaneously, the jewel is still very powerful if it only grants your choice of
I don't know what Profane Ground is. I think that's new. That's a hot jewel.
permanent consecrated ground or permanent profane ground. Entropic Devastation is a pair of unique gloves that were designed by Gucci Pradas and dropped from the Uber Shaper. Currently, the ways to get Spell Impale are very limited. These gloves provide the powerful property of causing all of your spells to impale on crit.
Jesus.
So let's
Fucking assassin spell crit, spell impale crit. That would be a good build.
talk about unique weapons, specifically endgame unique weapons. In many ways, the weapon is the most iconic and important item on a character, so it's very important that we make them exciting and worthy of their unique status. While some unique weapons have special properties that enable entirely new builds, others are best compared to powerful rare items as a primary source of your character's damage. We have to be very careful when pitching the power level of these unique weapons. If they're not powerful enough, then they're useless and are ignored, but if they're too powerful, then they discourage entire archetypes of characters from trying to find or craft rare weapons. Interestingly, the above problem doesn't apply to belts. Despite Mageblood and Headhunter both existing as extremely powerful unique items, people still craft plenty of rare belts. That's because Mageblood and Headhunter are extremely rare, and people don't actually expect they'll reliably get one in a league. Players tend to treat them as luxury upgrades to their build, rather than something they're certain to get. In this expansion, we're promoting 10 iconic but underused unique weapons.
So are they saying they're going to turn these weapons into new headhunters so they're just as hard to get and just as expensive? Don't like if true.
To the same tier of rarity as Mageblood and Headhunter.
Yep.
We are buffing them a gigantic amount and are making them incredibly hard to find. Remember when Starforge used to be an exciting item?
Jesus,
Well, after this change,
that's an
it
upgrade.
certainly is again. It still drops exclusively from the Shaper and the Uber Shaper, but it'll take a lot of runs or a lot of luck to earn it. Over the next week, we'll reveal the other unique
Oh, I
weapons.
wonder if you could still farm this in the Mudflats in Act 6 with the cards. If you can still farm this and then get it from the cards, this might be a good choice. Interesting.
massively buffed. We have targeted around 10 iconic underused unique weapons and have generally buffed only their damage stat, but by a lot. We've made a number of changes to jewels that are covered in a recent balance manifesto, but in case you missed it, we want to quickly summarize what the changes are.
We don't need the jewels. We already talked about it.
We've rebalanced curses to make them stronger where they matter most against unique monsters and pinnacle bosses. We have buffed several hex-related unique items and reworked unique items.
Ignoring curse limit,
that previously
100%
interacted with
chance.
Doom.
That's pretty cool.
To replace the Doomsday Keystone passive, we have brought back a version of an iconic curse-related keystone from the past. We've introduced some powerful new unique items that interact with hexes, which we'll reveal in the lead up to launch. For more details on changes to curses, check out the balance manifesto we posted recently, or the patch notes that will come out after the livestream concludes. When we first created the ARCHNEMESIS monster mod system, our goal was to improve Path of Exile's outdated set of monster mods with new and interesting mechanics that have modern game balance. We feel that ARCHNEMESIS did introduce a lot of interesting mechanics, but it unfortunately had several of its own problems. We have replaced ARCHNEMESIS with a system that is more similar to the way monster mods worked in the past. The new monster mods are a lot simpler. They now each do one thing and very clearly state what they do. Each encounter with a rare monster is now less complex and is easier to understand in the heat of combat compared to ARCHNEMESIS. You'll still encounter challenging combinations of mods from time to time, but this emergent synergy will be rarer than it was under ARCHNEMESIS. The goal is that combat is interesting and varied, with moments that get your heart racing, but without the frustrations of the ARCHNEMESIS system. Let's talk about rewards. Under ARCHNEMESIS, it often felt mandatory to bring in a magic find culling character to kill some monsters for you in order to maximize your rewards.
That was my
In the new
biggest
system,
problem with
we've added a
the
significant
league.
pool of new rewards to rares, but the reward that is on the monster is hidden and not associated with a specific mod, so you don't know what kind of rewards you will get until you kill the monster. Rare monsters with more mods are more likely to have these special hidden reward bonuses. To find out more about other balance changes that are taking place in the Forbidden Sanctum, check out the patch notes, which will be available when the livestream ends. Over the last year or so, some of our senior developers have been tinkering with a more challenging way to play Path of Exile. We've been publicly alpha testing this mode, known as Ruthless, for the last month,
Which I
and are
didn't
planning to
get
make it available
the
to
test
anyone who's
key.
interested alongside the launch of the Forbidden Sanctum next
But I'll be
week.
playing it this league for sure.
Ruthless is an optional additional character flag, like Hardcore or Solo Self-Found, that
I
completely
know
changes.
about Ruthless.
This expansion also contains a number of small quality of life improvements. Some examples are Divine Vessels can now be used by right-clicking them rather than taking them to Sin.
Oh, that's nice.
On the player overhead life bar, the energy shield bar is split into a separate bar. You can now right-click an itemized Temple of Atsuatl to see its layout. And most importantly, beast crafting recipes that add mods to flasks now actually say what the mods do. We'll post more information about these and other quality of life improvements in the lead up to release. Today we're launching two new series of supporter packs, the Forge and Gemling packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face
I
value
don't
and
need no
point.
supporter packs. That looks pretty fucking cool. Slay the Spire is an amazing game, and they're going for a Slay the Spire feel. I'd say I'm 9 out of 10 hyped. This looks pretty fucking cool. Atlas revamp, also rad. Not sure how I feel about the new rare weapons. The bow would be cool if you could still get the cards and the mud flaps. You can just farm the cards, and then you can get the bow. You're like guaranteed to be able to get it through the cards with enough time. The other ones, maybe not so much. The new Star Forge is gonna be a bitch to get. Fighting that boss over and over and over again. Did look powerful though. Probably gonna go melee this league and not spells. I was thinking of maybe doing a Shock Nova Hierophant with a bunch of AoE. But now that I know they buff some weapons and they're buffing a few skills like Cleave. Cleave actually looks pretty badass now. Obviously, I won't be doing Flicker Strike because I get motion sickness from it. But the new Flicker Strike seems pretty cool too. That would feel satisfying to blow people up. Yeah, seems like a pretty good patch note. I mean, a pretty good league reveal. I'm going to stop this video and then do exactly another one for the patch notes.